You know, there's people out there these days that claim to be atheists, claim to be naturalists, claim to, you know, be people that deny, don't believe in God, aren't interested in the question of God. And I really believe most of these people adopt these worldviews not because they have any good reason to, but just because it's cool, it's fashionable, it's in. It's easy to fit in because other people are following these views.
And your basis for this belief is what exactly? Saying that you believe in something is fine and everything, but if this is the setup and thus the premise for the rest of what you're about to go on to say, then that belief needs evidence immediately. Otherwise, what do we have but a random Muslim saying what he believes results in the majority of atheists? So what? Now, of course, I can only speak for myself in certain terms. I'm atheist for one very simple reason. There is no evidence whatsoever for God. And whilst I cannot read the minds of my fellow atheists, an ability you seem to be pretending to have, the vast majority of atheists I have asked share the same basis for why they do not accept the claims of theism. Also, how is it cool or popular? Atheists face a lot of undue hostility for no reason other than they don't convert on demand. This is particularly true for America, where Muslims only overtook atheists as the least trusted demographic in 2014, 13 years after 9/11. So yes, today we'll be responding to Imran Hussein's video titled, "Do you feel like this as an atheist?" So let's continue to see what this little Dawa apologist has to say for himself this time.
And also, if you think about it, it goes in hand with other worldviews such as that of materialism. I mean, if you're very materialistic in nature and you're focused on, you know, you define yourself by what you possess from a material perspective and what you can possess in the future, if that's what you're focused on, the material, then obviously it's going to be difficult for you to think about anything else. Think about some of the more pressing questions that human beings ask, such as, who am I? Where have I come from? What's my purpose? Where am I going? Who created me? Who sent me? Who put me here?
Only if one conflates materialism as it's used day to day and philosophical materialism. We tend to use materialism day to day as you start here. We use it to convey someone who desires material wealth, something I don't hold to. But I am a materialist in the philosophical sense, by which I mean to express the fact that at current, I hold only the material to exist. The universe we know of consists of molecules and energy. Now, I also hold to philosophical naturalism, the idea that natural processes gave rise to our current situation. But I am not an atheist in order to fit these perspectives, nor do these perspectives impact where I get my sense of meaning from, besides it not being a non-material, supernatural source. But that still leaves many things such as family, friends, and the joy of life itself. I don't have to turn to the colloquial sense of materialism that you're trying to dishonestly merge with the philosophical materialism. And I get that your job is to lie to the followers of Islam and portray atheists as non-thinking, non-critical entities. But the fact that I've dismantled many of your videos and discussed many of the questions you list as atheists not having the time for, sort of calls bullshit on that falsehood. We routinely discuss these questions with or without your acknowledgement.
One thing I want to touch upon in this video is, and it's upon the second chapter of the book, The Divine Reality, and I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it. And the second chapter of this book is called, let me give it to you now, it's called Life Without God, and it's one of my favorite chapters. Because here Hamza doesn't make an argument for God's existence, nor does he make an argument necessarily against atheism or anything. It's simply, the chapter simply discusses or highlights that if you adopt a worldview, if you claim a worldview such as atheism or naturalism in this case, then you have to realize that it comes with implications, right? And the implications of atheism and naturalism are very, very bleak. They're very dark. It's a very depressing state of affairs if you think about it.
Not if you do so properly. That is, without inventing some wild straw man you wish to present a typical atheist as. Atheists simply don't believe in God. The only implication of that is that my meaning, morality, and other similar philosophical abstracts won't be sourced from or answered by God. That's it. As noted earlier, I still got many reasons to live for and to do the right thing, and I imagine you share many of those reasons. So how is my existence bleak? How is it dark? How is it very depressing? I have to ask because as someone with that lived experience, I don't see it. It's just a rehash of the same old, all atheists are uber nihilists we've seen time and time again. If you think that the only thing giving your life meaning is some unproven deity, then maybe you should try to appreciate your loved ones a little more. Not to mention every day you spend on this pale blue dot we call home.
He goes into this from a few different perspectives, and I just want to share one or two with you. And before that, I want us to get us to appreciate something. Look, if you deny God and you say there is no creator, there is nothing, there is no creative power behind this entire universe, this whole cosmos and life, then what you're left with is the view that everything that exists is an accident. Everything that exists is an accidental byproduct of random physical cold processes and stuff that's been taking place over God knows how many millions of years, right? Therefore, everything that's emerged is an accident, including yourselves and myself. We're an accident. Our lives are an accident. And when we die, we will just die and we will leave. And if this is the case, then where is the purpose? Where is the ultimate purpose in life? Now, you may claim purpose. You may say, well, my purpose is to be a doctor, an engineer, do charity work. All good and well. You can give yourself purpose. But this is not your ultimate purpose. What is our ultimate purpose? Everything else around us seems to have a purpose. Things we make seem to have a purpose. We make things with a purpose, but when it comes to us, we don't have an ultimate purpose, right? And deep down inside, we know that we do, but you can't account for one on atheism or naturalism.
Except I don't. I once thought that I, as with everyone else, did. But then I actually studied my beliefs and found them to be wanting of evidence. You're using this deep down crap to presuppose that there has to be some ultimate meaning. Why? Whilst this won't work on atheists, it will make the believers more secure in what they've been told. They think there's some ultimate meaning, so they feel like they have that. Therefore, when you say everyone knows this deep down, they feel validated even though they only have a sample of 2. But I, an atheist, know that I don't feel that. And not only do I not feel that there's some ultimate meaning, I don't feel the want for one. What you are arguing is that life is pointless unless you're some sort of robot, a being with a very specific mechanical process. In that respect, you're nothing but an arm on an assembly line, doing as you were programmed. I don't hold dictated meaning in high regard, divine or mundane in origin. I think it's fucking creepy when parents attempt to live vicariously through their children. Children should only ever be seen as an end, not a mean. A child owes you absolutely nothing. They are not an opportunity to see the life you never had. They're not a chance for grandchildren. They're not your retirement fund. They're human beings you should only bring into being for the joy of raising them. And if a God exists, the same is true of them. We are fully sentient, thinking, feeling entities, not some battery pack of praise, worship, and adulation. As for accident, sometimes the most wonderful things are accidents. Do you look at a child who was not planned by their parents, sneering to yourself, you're only an accident? Or do you see a child? I think you're showing more of your hand than you'd care to. So yeah, I guess I'm just a happy little accident. But being an accident does not devalue my life in any way. In fact, it's rather liberating. I mean, how shitty would it be to ask the creator why he created us and he just says, well, because I could, or because I needed energy from you, or something like that. That's not an existence worth wanting, arguing for, or anything. It's all rather shit, to be honest.
Take value, for example. You know, we value things, we give different value to different things. So human beings, for example, if it was between myself as a human being and this book, you know, if someone was to destroy one of these and you had to vote, I'm sure most of the same people out there would vote that the book be destroyed and myself. And if you were asked as to why, you say, well, you're a human being, you're more complex, you're living, you know, you have this, that, and the other, the book is just a material book. But again, on atheism and naturalism, if we really think about it, what's the difference? What is the difference? Because I am just a rearrangement of material matter, physical stuff, and so is the book. We're just a different rearrangement of matter. If you now bring in these ideas such as, oh, you're conscious, you're living, you're complex, these are things that you're just introducing. Why assume these principles that you're bringing into play here? If we really think about it, on atheism and naturalism, there is no difference. You can claim a difference, but you can make one up on your worldview. But really, if we really think about it, there is no difference. It's just a different rearrangement of material stuff.
Fact is, not everyone agrees on said values. Your friend Hamza Tzortzis, the author of the book you are holding, was famously recorded declaring that people should be put to death for apostasy, for nothing more than a perceived slight against an ideology, that of Islam. The book is a step up from that, if only for its application as kindling. And yet, yes, I hold human life to have far more value than Hamza's shitty little book. I am, after all, as well as both a philosophical naturalist and materialist, a secular humanist. I value human well-being as part of that. Why? Well, because I was raised in a way that I was taught that empathy with my fellow person was a good thing. I wasn't discouraged from that as many people sadly are. I was raised without any clear in-groups or out-groups as part of my mentality. Of course, I picked up systemic stuff from wider society, stuff I'm actively challenging each and every day. Now, you'll likely say that I'm just adding stuff in. As opposed to what? Adding your God? Adding the supernatural? People exist. My experiences exist. They have relevance here. I like to include relevant information to reach an informed decision. I don't decry the addition of information out of hand because you're just introducing things, as you say. Why does adding magic suddenly change things in a way that adding empathy doesn't? This ruling seems to be completely arbitrary, set up in a fashion designed to give yourself some legitimacy you lack. I'm shocked that even you thought that this was some sort of an argument. Yeah, I'm including relevant information, but can you demonstrate said items to be irrelevant to what I conclude? I doubt it. If you could, I imagine that you would have done so already. But you haven't. Instead, you just asserted that we can't consider things such as empathy. Why? You seem to be projecting the idea that since Islam is the totality of your philosophical identity, that this must be true of other philosophical positions, such as naturalism and materialism. This ignores the fact that I can also be a humanist whilst holding said perspectives.
And you can see how dark it starts getting if we really start thinking about it, and how depressing it starts to get. And I really believe there's many people out there, who for one reason or the other have adopted these worldviews, but now they are experiencing some of these implications. They're actually living with them. This existential crisis that they're going through. Who am I? Where have I come from? If you look at some of these forums online, you can see some of the people that adopt these worldviews are really depressed, very anxious. They try to drink away their problems. But it's a big problem. Most people don't talk about this, right?
So first of all, you go out on a limb claiming that atheists don't talk about these big questions. Fine. But then to come back and use atheists talking about these big questions in online forums as evidence for what you're talking about, do you not see the contradiction there? Secular philosophy is a budding field. There have been secular philosophies scattered here and there in the past. The only problem is that they very often found themselves the target of religious-induced intolerance. Thomas Aikenhead was executed in the UK in 1697 for having the audacity to question God. And for centuries thereafter, said position has been the target of social ostracization. Only relatively recently, the last 50 or 60 years, has this begun to change. Note the phrase, begun to change. That's because philosophy takes time as well as active input, something atheists online have been a large part of, and we're beginning to grow beyond that to have a greater offline presence, though it varies as to how much depending on what country. The UK has had a pretty strong humanist presence for a while, but the US less so, and let's not even get started about the Middle East. But the internet is doing to Islam what the printing press did to Christianity. This is due to differences in such things as social hostility, which is something that can result in a great number of social issues such as mental health problems. When a large section of society is targeting you, life gets harder. That does not then justify said social hostility. Now you keep saying, I believe, but I'm still waiting for you to say, and here's the evidence.
Now I want us to really think about this, and I'm going to conclude by sharing a very profound verse from the Quran, where God says, he puts in a very beautiful way. He says, look, those that turn away from the remembrance of God, they're going to have a very difficult, constricted, depressed life. And Ibn Kathir, one of the famous commentators on the Quran, when he comments on this verse, he says, these type of people that turn away from the remembrance of God from a material perspective, the things that we run after these days and think that they're going to give us happiness and tranquility and peace, these people, they can have all of the material wealth they can imagine. They can have all the material things. But if they don't remember God, if they turn away from their Creator, then they're going to have this tightness within the chest, which is not going to go away until they turn back to their Creator and turn back to the purpose of the existence.
And that's all there is to it. An assertion from an unverified book. So fucking what? I don't care what the Quran says. I care about what you can show, which, as it happens, seems to be diddly squat. You didn't even ask the question as with the title of your video. You just asserted. So, do I feel like that as an atheist? No. What you describe is nothing like my experience. Yeah, I suffer mental health problems, as do a vast number of other atheists. But it's not limited to us, and you haven't shown anything nearing a correlation, let alone a causal link. There are going to be atheists with depression, just like there are going to be Muslims with depression. But at least with the atheist, we are more likely to secure them the help that they need, rather than exploit said fact for personal gain. Like you. So to my viewers who are atheist, do you feel like this? How does what Imran says relate to your personal experience? And last of all, where do you source your meaning from? Be sure to comment down below. Now don't forget that you can support me on Patreon. We are trying to make the channel ad-free, so be sure to check that out as well. And speaking of Patreon, I'd just like to give a special thanks to the following people: Hannah Banghart, Matthew Kovac, Brad R, John Schoenrock, Alexander Williams, Rain Kilmore, and Daniel Martinez. Take care now, and I'll see you next time.